Warfare has long been a pivotal force in human history. As civilizations emerged around 3100 BCE, conflict evolved from small-scale disputes in the Paleolithic and Neolithic periods to larger, more organized battles in the Bronze Age. Rulers of kingdoms and empires could now deploy hundreds or thousands of soldiers. Technological advancements, including bronze weapons, chariots, bows, and new tactics, defined warfare during the Bronze Age, influencing the course of Near Eastern history into the early Iron Age. The Bronze Age cultures of the Near East were centered in 6 regions: Egypt, the Levant/Syria-Palestine, Anatolia, Mesopotamia, and the Eastern Mediterranean. During the early and Middle Bronze Ages, limited contact existed among these cultures, but ideas circulated through trade routes. Warfare was relatively straightforward until the Middle Bronze Age around 2100 to 1550 BCE, when technological advancements, including the wheel and horse domestication, transformed both civilian and military practices. This era also witnessed the consolidation of kingdoms into empires as they expanded their territorial control. Around 1550 BCE, the Near East witnessed the formation of great states engaging in direct contact, collectively termed the Great Powers Club, during the Late Bronze Age, 1550 to 1200 BCE. The membership, though fluid, initially included Egypt, Kassite Babylon, Hittites, and Mitanni, later joined by Alicia and eventually replaced by Assyria. Some consider the Anatolian state of Arzawa as part of this club, while influential non-member states included Minoan Crete, Mycenaean Greece, and Elam. Scholars understand this system through abundant written sources, notably the Amarna letters, a collection of over 300 clay tablets discovered in 1887 in the Egyptian city of Amarna. These tablets, inscribed in the Akkadian language's cuneiform script, contain correspondence between the great powers and their vassal states. Most vassal states were Canaanite city-states in the Levant, offering significant benefits to the major powers. The Levant, abundant in resources like timber and horses, served as a crucial buffer zone between the Hittites and Egyptians. The southern Levant fell under Egyptian control, while the north was dominated by the Hittites, who often employed Canaanite proxies to advance their objectives in this strategic region. In the Late Bronze Age Near East, armies employed similar weapons and tactics, offering a broad overview. The chariot stands out prominently in historical records, with numerous texts, artistic depictions, and some surviving chariot pieces aiding modern scholars in reconstructing these ancient war machines. However, the role of chariots in history is commonly misconstrued. Contrary to belief, Bronze Age armies didn't opt for chariots because they were more effective or efficient than cavalry. In reality, it was the opposite. Chariot teams demanded more resources than cavalry, and a single horse proved to be more maneuverable than a chariot. Nevertheless, the chariot took precedence in development for several reasons. Late Bronze Age horses were generally smaller, making them unsuitable for cavalry. Moreover, crucial innovations like saddles and stirrups, essential for the effectiveness of cavalry, had not yet been invented during this period. The Eurasian steppe, where the wheel and horse domestication originated, played a pivotal role in disseminating these innovations across Eurasia during the late Neolithic period. Interestingly, the chariot, a product of this technological evolution, reached the Egyptians last among the Near Eastern civilizations, introduced by the Hyksos in the 17th century BCE. However, the chariot wasn't the sole weapon to experience widespread diffusion in the Near East. The composite bow, believed to have originated on the Eurasian steppe, found its way into the Bronze Age Near East. In the Late Bronze Age, it became the standard weapon for the chariot corps in Egypt after making its journey from the steppes. Another notable Bronze Age weapon associated with the Egyptians is the sickle or kapesh sword, a one-handed hacking sword widely used by infantry forces across the Near East. As offensive weaponry advanced, so did developments in armor for the armies of the Near East. During the Late Bronze Age, armor primarily consisted of leather and/or bronze. While not as heavy as later armor, it provided warriors with a level of protection, offering them a fighting chance on the battlefield. The military rivalry between the Hittites and Egyptians for dominance in the Levant initiated in the 15th century BCE, but escalated significantly in the 13th century. Prior to this period, the kingdom of Mitanni also held a presence in the region, but its destruction in the mid-13th century left the Hittites and Egyptians as the primary contenders. Muwatalli II, reigning from around 1295 to 1272 BCE, expanded the Hittite Empire from central Anatolia into the Levant. Not to be outdone, Ramesses II, commonly known as the Great, ruled Egypt aggressively from approximately 1290 to 1224 BCE, particularly asserting dominance in the Levant. The confrontation between the two powers unfolded in the 5th year of Ramesses' rule near the Canaanite city of Kadesh. The Battle of Kadesh stands out as the most extensively documented battle before the Battle of Marathon and provides the earliest detailed account of a conflict. 6 versions of the battle, inscribed in the Egyptian language, adorn the walls of 4 Egyptian temples, later transcribed onto papyrus. Accompanying each temple inscription are pictorial reliefs, invaluable for modern scholars seeking insights into the nature of warfare during the Late Bronze Age. When the forces converged on a plain outside Kadesh, both the Egyptians and the Hittites wielded similar weapons, but employed distinct tactics. The personal leadership of the kings on the battlefield was a common feature throughout the Near East in the Late Bronze Age. In both armies, the chariot corps served as the cornerstone of their professional military, but there were nuanced differences in their chariots. Hittite chariots had the axle attached to the middle of the body, making them larger and heavier compared to Egyptian chariots. This design allowed Hittite chariots to carry 3 men, a driver, a shield bearer, and a spear thrower. In contrast, Egyptian chariots accommodated only a driver and a shield bearer, with the driver often doubling as an archer. Hittite infantry adopted a phalanx formation, employing long spears and daggers if the phalanx was breached. While the bow found favor among Egyptian charioteers, only Hittite light infantry utilized bows, and pictorial reliefs indicate they did not employ composite bows. Another crucial element in the Hittite army that played a pivotal role at Kadesh was the Teher warriors. These warriors served as the elite guard of Muwatalli, and presumably all Hittite kings, forming a protective ring around the king during the heat of battle. The Egyptian chariots, although smaller, boasted greater speed and maneuverability, albeit with less firepower. In engagements, the driver would bring the chariot to a halt, allowing them to shoot their bows while the shield bearer provided protection. Some skilled charioteers, like Ramesses II claimed to be, could simultaneously drive and shoot by fastening the chariot reins to a belt loop. Egyptian infantry, much like their Hittite counterparts, were typically conscripted commoners, wielding the Kapesh sword as their weapon of choice. While the Teher were a distinctive Hittite feature, the Egyptians also had their elite soldiers. Ramesses' personal guards hailed from the Shardana ethnic group, easily identifiable in depictions by their long swords and horned helmets. As the battle unfolded, the Egyptians employed a specialized unit of shock troops known as the Na'arn, comprising either native Canaanites, Egyptian soldiers residing in the Levant, or a combination of both. Texts suggest that the Egyptian army was organized into 5 divisions, named after key New Kingdom gods, Ptah, Ra, Amun, and Seth, with the Na'arn forming a distinct division. Scholars today estimate each division comprised around 5,000 men, bringing the total Egyptian forces to roughly 20,000 to 30,000 men. It's believed that the Hittite army had a similar structure and comparable numbers, resulting in a total of 40,000 to 60,000 men engaged in the Battle of Kadesh. The Battle of Kadesh unfolded vigorously over a full day, possibly 2, with the Hittites nearly capturing Ramesses. His rescue by the Na'arn led to a stalemate, but the aftermath had enduring geopolitical and military consequences. In Hatti, turmoil erupted following Muwatalli's death, as Hattusili III, reigning around 1275 BCE, seized power from Urhi-Teshup, reigned around 1882 to 1275 BCE. Although Hattusili and Ramesses later entered into a treaty, a new threat emerged from the southeast. The Assyrians, latecomers to the Bronze Age great power system. Proficient in Bronze Age military techniques and some innovative ones, the Assyrians rose to dominate the Near East, marking the era as the Neo-Assyrian Empire. Ashur-uballit, reigned around 1363 to 1328 BCE, initiated this transformation by annexing Mitanni land, securing a place in the Great Powers Club. Shalmaneser I, reigned circa 1272 to 1244 BCE, completed the dismantling of Mitanni, positioning the Assyrians as neighbors to the Hittites and Babylonians. The Assyrians achieved this through a military structure that seamlessly blended the best practices of the Bronze Age with emerging Iron Age strategies. The rise of the Neo-Assyrian Empire was marked by an overarching martial philosophy that permeated every facet of Assyrian culture. In a departure from their predecessors, all adult Assyrian males faced conscription, and standing armies became the norm by the late Bronze Age. While Assyrian kings, akin to the Egyptians and Hittites, personally led their armies, the Assyrian government stood out for its heightened militarization. State offices were exclusively military posts, and even palace art glorified warfare and celebrated the prowess of the Assyrian army. As the Bronze Age collapsed around 1200 BCE, the Assyrians were well positioned to transition their military might into the emerging Iron Age. The Assyrians swiftly replaced bronze weapons with iron, shifted from chariots to cavalry, and introduced a remarkable innovation in siege warfare. While simple siege weapons existed in the Bronze Age, the Assyrians elevated them to new scientific levels. Pictorial reliefs from Assyrian cities reveal the use of wheeled siege weapons, towers, and battering rams. Alongside technological advancements, the Assyrians also pioneered new battlefield tactics during the late Bronze and early Iron Ages. The Assyrian army implemented swarming techniques and instilled terror when encroaching upon enemy territory. Cities displaying any resistance faced brutal reprisals. Assyrians engaged in torture, rape, beheadings, and flayings of a significant portion of the inhabitants. To intensify the horror, they would hang the corpses from the walls and gates as a macabre warning. Additionally, the Assyrians forcibly relocated resistant populations to other parts of their empire. One study estimates that approximately 4.5 million people suffered this fate during the last 3 centuries of the Assyrian Empire, spanning the 10th through 7th centuries BCE.